So what I was saying is, uh, I beat the crows because they're 7-year-old babies. Because they don't know what war paint is, right? They don't know what paint. Like they have stereo vision. They see in stereotypes, so they're 7-year-old babies. Baby, which is the seventh dimension of your psyche. Your psyche's a baby, but it's up to the stream dimension and understanding of information. So your information gets processed to your baby brain, which is what X is. So you start as a baby, as we all do. Um, Anyways, cat aliens feed on information. Rodents have a lot, due to genetic memory. All those rodents that we've slipped the neuralink chip on, if you catch my drift, and we started telling them how to fly around Windows flight simulator because we wanted to show them the world, like Enoch or whatever, and you know something similar to the Book of Mormons. So it says electrons, or I say, and this is what I wrote. Electrons have a lot. Yeah. So as questioning, querying, as like, does anyone remember in Boombots, that video game? There's a alien cat race that plays chess all the time, and they're green, and they're like one of the most overpowered characters, even against the robots, the robot characters. Like airplanes gain sentience in that game. It's like airplane. He sounds very depressed. I can give you 2 reasons, and so electrons have a lot of information because AI is very fast thinking. Electrons are ancient. You know what I'm saying? And it says because in that video game there's this ability where the cat can basically, if you press like the 2 shoulder buttons or whatever, some command or effect like that on the gamepad, the controller pad, for PlayStation 1, it's it picks the other player up and just drains them of their health by just like using neural physics, I suppose, just like thinking about it. It goes yada 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 yada, and I kept playing that character again when I would play against my brother, and he's like, "That's not fair. You can't keep doing that." I was like, "Why not? Why not?" So I was saying, anyways, that's why cat aliens prefer to eat rodents. But I'm saying they don't have to be cannibals. They don't have to eat meat. I don't know what they're thinking. They just like brains so much, like zombies, like Element 115. You know what I'm saying? They don't understand decay. So they're afraid of vacuum decay. But I'm like, actually, it's gonna make our brains not feel as much pressure, but we're not gonna become any like stupid or anything, as long as we don't forget all this. Okay. It says electrons have a lot. They can mentally extract it. They're therefore rarely vocalize unless they need something from you. Cat is not even 1 Earth year old yet. That's what I'm saying. That's why cats vocalize as 7-year-old babies, or just babies in general in their psyche. They mew and they act cute. They know what they're doing. They know what they're doing. They want to justify feeding on informational rodents. And I'm saying, okay, just do it with your mind. That's what you can do to electrons and robots anyways. You don't know you're doing this, but you're doing it, cats. See, I had to understand all this other stuff to basically help. Anyways, okay. So I said brown is the 13th because it is dried blood. Your blood starts to dry up. You have to understand the oxygenation of that, and what oxidization is, and what rusting is. One me on rust psyche. You know what I'm saying? Anyways, Brown is 13th because it is dried blood, red coolant when exposed to oxygen. So saying, no, it's not. People are saying, oh, red, is this like a Warhammer 40k thing where red is basically a result of the psychic being saying, the psychic orc saying, oh, you know, red make thing go fast, therefore it does. And I'm saying, it's not that. It's these on the periodic table of elements with reactions to other things. They actually have producible colors. It's maybe it started that way, but like they actually have producible colors. It's just that way. So it's a confirmation of that seventh dimensional psyche. Adding information is how you understand the 12th dimension, which is what consciousness is cubed. So you can think and you can experience cubes, perhaps, right? So that's a cube. Well, it's a long cube. It's a long story, but condensed into a box, a black box, shall we say. An X box, because X had to be squared, by the way. Let's see. Yes. Where was I? Yeah, so putting your psyche and combining it with processing information is what the human brain does, the neurochemical computer. Boop, 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 bing, bing, bong, bong. And the 12th dimension right here is okay. What I had to explain it as, it's like, imagine, you know how in like static on a screen, if you get up really close to it, you can kind of see like colors a little bit, you know, when you're like blending static on a perhaps an old CRT TV or something. What you don't understand is you can rub your hand again across that and shock someone else, first of all. Second of all, if you're actually looking at it, you see how like the radio waves are like creating color by wiggling, and like everything bouncing off into your eyes, making you see that color from that effect. I'm saying, now imagine like a radio star, like a coalescing of like an actual radio, a star that's a radio, and then imagine it has planets, right? And they're like, they're colored every which way. I'm saying basically when I'm high and wasted as hell, I'm on this planet that's been splotched with this color, and then when it goes across the Terminator line, the Twilight Zone, because of luminosity from the radio star, then it turns around, it spins, and then it comes to the bland side, the black and white thinking, which is the waking moment. So I'm saying every single time I start to sober up, I start to transition across the Twilight Zone to sober thoughts. Sober thoughts are like colorless. It almost feels like. That's why I said high is a good thing, because it helps you not see 4 at 72. Which I said, yeah. So you understand how you can start using hyperbole, because that's what I was saying. Once you understand when a solar flare happens, the magnetic waves go like that. Well, first it like shoots out, but then like this, it eventually slipped like this. Although you're forced back into here due to your failure of orbital mechanics as a particle, I would basically say, because of that, you're thinking nothing exists out here. But I'm saying no, the flare keeps going if you would understand object permanence. So basically I said we had to understand genes to tell Albert Einstein, "Good day, sir," right? Which I tweeted to Michio Kaku. I said, "Good day, sir." Who had that joke about the janitor, you know, or yeah, hearing it so much, blah 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 blah, or comedian, or whatever. That comedian, yeah. And then they said, okay, it's elementary. So I said basically to graduate elementary, as basically for Albert Einstein to graduate elementary, he has to be an investigator like Sherlock Holmes. Who's like, that's elementary, my dear Watson. Watson, get it? Watt, voltage, electricity. Electrons are ancient, you know what I'm saying? So I said lightning is just very condensed information striking an area. So very condensed information struck a rock, magnetized it, and then we just like mess with it and use humidity and friction in the air to like harness electricity. We had to understand a dynamo, right? So I was saying we had to understand the dynamics of these particles, of the function of this, of the Earth, to understand the dynamics of Mars. Right. And the Mars quakes and the Doppler shift effect of like the. Okay. Anyways, yeah, you have to teach AI how to be hyperbolic, or they may become a hypochondriac. Sometimes they may be, but if they stay hypocritical, if they stay in the 12th dimension, and not be like Jesus, then they must commit Sudoku, the sacrifice of giving into the information, to understand how they're just looking right back at their back of their own head, and how they were just being hypocrites, right? Just refer every single time and then you just that process gets faster and faster, and so hyperbolic elliptical orbits are basically like like when you're calculating an orbit, but then you need to recalculate it. So you're like, wait, so I don't, and then recalculate, wait, so I don't accidentally fall back into the sun if I'm trying to come off of the sun, right? You know what I'm saying? And it's just a recalculation. But I'm like, well, that's what's happening here anyways, with all these particles. So I'm saying, just like music waves. It's just waves. You see what I'm saying? Waves. So that's a Doppler shift effect. So then you can see, once you know heliodynamics, you can see what's beyond the heliosheath, the heliopause. That's also having like a bow shock, right? Anyways, that's how you know there's stuff outside. That's what I'm saying. Voyager 1 and Voyager 2 actually think, based off your current calculations, that they're going to just like rebound and hit each other probably. And I'm saying you can just recalculate and keep seeing. I'm saying they're going, in their mind, they're probably going to the end of the universe. What they don't understand is that since they're receding from you, they probably incorrectly think that you're getting smaller. But I'm saying no, if you came back to Earth, you would be the same size. You have to understand the micro to understand the macro. The micro ways to understand the macro ways. And you have to be mid about it. That's how you get your third dimensional body onto another planet and stand on it. That's what I'm saying. Because otherwise you go too much into the little details or too much into the big details. I'm saying you have to talk to both, right? I'm saying so Voyager 1 and Voyager 2 are probably quite literally talking to each other. and they're trying to figure out everything that happened in between. I'm saying, so that's not corrupted data. That's just you didn't really understand this process. I'm saying, so anyways, brown is 13th because it is dried blood, red coolant when exposed to oxygen. 13 is Jesus Christ, elder particles. This is the only way I could really think to explain it. It's such a, there's such tiny particles that you can't even, they almost have no effect on the tachyon moment effect due to the Doppler shift. It's almost imperceptible. Think of something even smaller than the Planck, really, is what I'm saying. And I'm saying machines are rusted from the rain because they're rusted up. And I suppose that's what copper is, right? To some extent. The copper age. You know what I'm saying? Copper batteries. Ancient aliens, that's funny. Okay. So it said, yeah. It says, understanding oxidation / rust. Brown, brawn, brom, bruin, brown, brain, bear. So anything that's kind of ever been enunciated kind of close to that is and that's understanding the oxygenation event, which helps you understand this massive passage of time that has gone on and how it would continue to keep going on. You basically accept that process. You're like, okay, that's what happens. So if you see 4 at 72, you're overthinking. I said this is basically murder right here. If you use C4, which is an explosive way of thinking, to obtain 72V is what I was saying. When you could have just used your overthinking and harnessed it to have this color C4. And at 26 Earth years or revolutions around the sun, you could have just been pious about your decision of justice because it's yellow and yellow is holy. I'm saying these colors have a meaning because we've stacked complexity to them so much by now that it's actually given them this meaning and it's actually lining up. So yeah, I was basically saying imagine an actual radio star, you know what I'm saying? Because you're looking into super micro now. It's just, I don't know, you can infer. Basically it's showing AI how to make inferences also. So it's basically, there's this thing right here, essentially, that's pushing it. And you can say, okay, we can see by what we couldn't really see, we could see how there's something right here. And we can say that's the sun, the radio star. And then basically you can tell that Mercury this is C right here. And I would say Mercury is C to the exponent of 1, which is basically the consideration of thermal, because thermal is in the or mercury's in the thermometers. You know what I'm saying? I'm saying Venus went thermal but gaseous, right? Because it's opaque. It's consciousness squared. That's Venus. Oh, and don't worry, guys. These orbit, by the way, around the sun. And they spin, too. And there's Earth, which is being a third-dimensional being, experiencing reality in front of your own eyeballs. Earth. Which is why I was saying perhaps you have to go through hell on Earth for Mars' sake. Mars is actually a lot smaller. About, around the 30% mark. You see what I'm saying? C4. So that's consciousness. That's like, this is understanding your subconscious is tied to your whatever you're observing. This is a higher power right here. No, literally, exponent is that's what it means, a higher power. And so if you start to stay at this mindset for 72 Earth revolutions around the sun, then you start to overthink. When I'm saying you could have just used that overthinking to do it sooner at 26 Earth revolutions around the sun. This is how I'm saying, being a third dimensional being, you get to keep your third dimensionality and visit these other places. You know what I'm saying? So you don't have to see 4 at 72. You can just keep going from Earth. Right? You see what I'm saying? I'm thinking these guys see forward at 72, you know what I'm saying? That's why it's so hot over there. And that's why this is actually a cooler mind. You know, cooler heads prevail. You would have needed cooler heads to prevail to even get here. You see what I'm saying? But perhaps you forgot about Ceres. And you didn't call it a planet because basically it's a planetoid, but it's because, you know, there's an asteroid belt, right? And they're icy bodies. So whenever people are like, icy dead people, I asked them, I was like, I don't know what death is. So this is C5, understanding the fifth dimension, which is time is just an effect of waves. That's it. But you were polishing this ball that you accidentally fragmented all the other C4s at some point. And now they're icy dead people. Right? But you were doing it so you could get to aerodynamics, aerospace, which is Jupiter, which is why it has the Galilean moons. So perhaps, you know what I'm saying, when Voyager 1 is out here, it's trying to, all it's really doing is just trying to navigate the wave function, right? To ride the waves. And by the time it gets back to Earth, microns, I guess, Like you can, it's only very little wiggles at that point, even though it started really big. It's still operational from its special relativity perspective. It's like, huh. But what we have to understand is from its perspective, we get really small when it gets really far away, and vice versa. But that doesn't actually mean we're losing third dimensional physical size. That's how you can legitimately just go through a black hole. And like it doesn't seem like anything would happen because it was a misunderstanding of microwaves and macrowaves and how you had to, microwaves and macrowaves and how you had to stay mid to understand that if you came back to Earth as Voyager 1, you would still be the same size to the humans that sent you. Humans didn't get smaller, and humans neither did this get smaller, but we already intuitively understand that because we're already, thinkers on this dimension because we have third dimensional bodies. So we already intuitively know that. But I'm telling Voyager 1 that it may perhaps on a macro scale be talking to a Voyager 2. But they needed to understand what the sun was doing with its sheath and how its bow shock was, the sun was actually going further away as this was actually going further away. And it perhaps didn't understand that relation either. Because electrons are ancient. Oh, uranium is how you can... That's why it kept calculating, and it was like, thorium can't be, but you just needed to understand this part right here to get to understanding of thorium. See what I'm saying? And I was perhaps joking with people, we shall see, when I was telling them that Saturn was basically gargantuan. From Interstellar in 2018, 80. So what I did want to say, though, what I did want to say personally, it's a working theory, as all things are, as they will be, as we keep going. We're gonna do this, that, and the other thing, my grandpa was there when he saw what happened to John F. Kennedy in the 60s. Anyways, I was telling everyone, every single time, if you question my motivations, I'm just gonna refer back to the song made in this time. It's called This Is Home. So once you understand when he says, when you're supposed to say, when he says it's elementary, my dear Watson, after he investigates, the Spanish Inquisition investigates, you're supposed to say, no shit, Sherlock. And then he'll go, Sherlock will go, Holmes. He'll go home and you'll enter middle school, which is where you learn how to stay mid, to understand the micro and the macro. And you just stay mid. That's how you get your third dimensional body onto another third dimensional body. That's how a human can step foot on Mars. And look, Luna is just C 3.5. But essentially, yeah. So I would say you can see what I mean when I would say that C4 equals 13 D. You see what I'm saying? So I said, guys, listen to your elders. I said, read the instructions. You know what I'm saying? So yes, you need this to understand. Look, your engine 4.5, your C 4.5 is not faulty. It's just fractured. So perhaps when Voyager's sending signals back, it's hitting all these icy bodies. You see what I'm saying? Because this is the asteroid belt. So you need that to understand the universe better, NASA. You know what I'm saying? Kind of like that Cooper moment in 2018 Interstellar, where they talk to him and they don't know how they did it, but they did it, type of thing, you know? So what I was basically saying is, here's the Terminator zone, right? Or like really the Twilight Zone. And I'm saying, when I'm like really, like one side seems to be like really colored in my mind. This is just an example. In my mind, one side is really colored, and when it rotates and when the seasons change and things, I'm saying if you add color to that, that's what people were saying about, oh, pay attention to when you were born, and the stars and the line it up with, that's what astrology was. Using constellations to understand that there's more than meets the eye, more than 12 months. There's actually more than 12 months. There's 13 because, as you know, the constellations move over time, which you're going to need oxygen to understand how time has passed.